to them in their night and call them to him. So all day long did Hothrun Dath follow the way of the graves. It is told that he even journeyed for 3 days and nights with nought but the graves to guide him, as they pointed towards Yarni Zai, where all the world slopes upwards towards Yarnith, and the great black rocks that are nearest to Yarni Zai lie gathered together by clans, till he came to the 2 great black pillars of Asdarinth, and saw the rocks beyond them piled in a dark valley, narrow and aloof, and knew that this was Yodeth. Then did he haste no more, but walked quietly up the valley, daring not to disturb the stillness, for he said: "Surely this is the stillness of Yarni Zai, which lay about him before he clothed himself with rocks." Here among the rocks which first had gathered to the call of Yarni Zai, Hothrun Dath felt a mighty fear, but yet went onwards because of all his people, and because he knew that thrice in every hour in some dark chamber Death and Famine met to speak 2 words together: "The End." But as dawn turned the darkness into grey, he came to the valley's end, and even touched the foot of Yarni Zai, but saw him not, for he was all hidden in the mist. Then Hothrun Dath feared that he might not behold him to look him in the eyes when he sent up his prayer, but laying his forehead against the foot of Yarni Zai, he prayed for the men of Yarnith, saying: "O Lord of Famine and Father of Death, there is a spot in the world that thou hast cast about thee which men call Yarnith, and there men die before the time thou hast apportioned, passing out of Yarnith. Perchance the Famine hath rebelled against thee, or Death exceeds his powers. O Master of the World, drive out the Famine as a moth out of thy cloak, lest the gods beyond, that regard thee with their eyes, say: There is Yarni Zai, and lo! his cloak is tattered." And in the mist no sign made Yarni Zai. Then did Hothrun Dath pray to Yarni Zai to make some sign with his uplifted hand, that he might know he heard him. In the awe and silence he waited, until nigh the dawn the mist that hid the figure rolled upwards. Serene above the mountains he brooded over the world, silent, with right hand uplifted. What Hothrun Dath saw there upon the face of Yarni Zai no history telleth, or how he came again alive to Yarnith, but this is writ, that he fled, and none hath since beheld the face of Yarni Zai. Some say that he saw a look on the face of the image that set a horror tingling through his soul, but it is held in Yarnith that he found the marks of instruments of carving about the figure's feet, and discerning thereby that Yarni Zai was wrought by the hands of men, he fled down the valley, screaming: "There are no gods, and all the world is lost," and hope departed from him and all the purposes of life. Motionless behind him, lit by the rising sun, sat the colossal figure with right hand uplifted that man had made in his own image. But the men of Yarnith tell how Hothrun Dath came back again panting to his own city, and told the people that there were no gods, and that Yarnith had no hope from Yarni Zai. Then the men of Yarnith, when they knew that the Famine came not from the gods, arose and strove against him. They dug deep for wells and slew goats for food high up on Yarnith's mountains, and went afar and gathered blades of grass where yet it grew, that their cattle might live. Thus they fought the Famine, for they said: "If Yarni Zai be not a god, then is there nothing mightier in Yarnith than men, and who is the Famine, that he should bare his teeth against the lords of Yarnith?" And they said: "If no help cometh from Yarni Zai, then is there no help but from our own strength and might, and we be Yarnith's gods, with the saving of Yarnith burning within us, or its doom according to our desire." And some more the Famine slew, but others raised their hands, saying: "These be the hands of gods," and drave the Famine back till he went from the houses of men and out among the cattle. And still the men of Yarnith pursued him, till above the heat of the fight came the million whispers of rain, heard faintly far off towards evening. Then the Famine fled away howling, back to the mountains and over the mountains' crests, and became no more than a thing that is told in Yarnith's legends. 1,000 years have passed across the graves of those that fell in Yarnith by the Famine, but the men of Yarnith still pray to Yarni Zai, carved by men's hands in the likeness of a man, for they say: "It may be that the prayers we offer to Yarni Zai may roll upwards from his image as do the mists at dawn, and somewhere find at last the other gods, or that God who sits behind the others, of whom our prophets know not." End of The Men of Yarnith. For the Honour of the Gods, from Time and the Gods, by Lord Dunsany. Of the great wars of the three islands are many histories writ, and of how the heroes of the olden time one by one were slain, but nought is told of the days before the olden time, or ever the people of the isles went forth to war, when each in his own land tended cattle or sheep, and listless peace obscured those isles in the days before the olden time. For then the people of the islands played like children about the feet of chance, and had no gods, and went not forth to war, but sailors cast by strange winds upon those shores which they named the Prosperous Isles, and finding a happy people which had no gods, told how they should be happier still, and know the gods, and fight for the honour of the gods, and leave their names writ large in histories, and at the last die proclaiming the names of the gods. And the people of the islands met and said: "The beasts we know, but lo! these sailors tell of things beyond, that know us as we know the beasts, and use us for their pleasure as we use the beasts, but yet are apt to answer idle prayer flung up at evening near the hearth, when a man returneth from the ploughing of the fields. Shall we now seek these gods?" And some said: "We are lords of the three islands, and have none to trouble us, and while we live we find prosperity, and when we die our bones have ease in the quiet. Let us not therefore seek those who may loom greater than we do in the islands three, or haply harry our bones when we be dead." But others said: "The prayers that a man mutters when the drought hath come, and all the cattle die, go up unheeded to the heedless clouds, and if somewhere there be those that garner prayer, let us send men to seek them, and to say: There be men in the isles called Three, or sometimes named by sailors the Prosperous Isles, and they be in the central sea, who ofttimes pray, and it hath been told us that ye love the worship of men, and for it answer prayer, and we be travellers from the islands three." And the people of the islands were greatly allured by the thought of strange things, neither men nor beasts, who at evening answered prayer. Therefore they sent men down in ships with sails to sail across the sea, and in safety over the sea to a far shore chance brought the ships. Then over hill and valley three men set forth, seeking to find the gods, and their comrades beached the ships and waited on the shore, and they that sought the gods followed for 30 nights the lightnings in the sky over 5 mountains, and as they came to the summit of the last they saw a valley beneath them, and lo! the gods. For there the gods sat, each on a marble hill, each sitting with an elbow on his knee and his chin upon his hand, and all the gods were smiling about their lips. And below them there were armies of little men, and about the feet of the gods they fought against each other, and slew one another for the honour of the gods, and for the glory of the name of the gods. And round them in the valley their cities, that they had builded with the toil of their hands, they burnt for the honour of the gods, where they died for the honour of the gods, and the gods looked down and smiled. And up from the valley fluttered the prayers of men, and here and there the gods did answer a prayer, but oftentimes they mocked them, and all the